Hello, 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 and good evening. Good evening, everybody. Happy Sunday to you guys. We are back. Chit Chat Podcast is back. I know that you guys have missed us. It's been 2 weeks. We've been since we've been on last, and your girl had to take her break last Sunday and decided to not do the show last Sunday. So I do want to apologize for that, but that was a much needed break. But we are back this Sunday, and I am so excited to be back with you guys. And I hope you guys understand sometimes that that necessary rest is important. And when we get into our topic today, you'll understand some of that when we get to chatting about that. But I wanted to jump in. Before we jump into our topic today, I want to kind of hit on our last episode when we had lessons from losses. So, so check in, guys. Check in. Let me know where you guys are checking in from. And from our last episode, lessons from losses, I got a lot of feedback from that episode. And I think that's why everybody was expecting for us to be back last week, because they was eager to come back and be back on a pod and chat about some of those things. But I do want to check in with you guys to see if there was anything that you guys want to share from the lesson from losses episode, because a lot of good nuggets came out of that lesson. I was writing down, taking notes myself from things that people were sharing in the chat. But each one, teach one. When we're going through something, a lot of times it's not for ourselves, it's to help somebody else, especially if you're a believer. God, he ordains different things for us to be able to help somebody else, because the Bible tells us we overcome by the word of our testimony. So so when I'm sharing things that I've experienced or whatever, even though it has helped me, it's also going to help the next person, because they're going to be like, okay, I seen a girl that went through that and she got through that. So I know that I can get through this as well. So, so check in, guys. We are back with our new episode this week, and I'm so excited. I hope you guys was able to see some of the flyers that Jada posted as well in the group and on Instagram for the nomination for mothers, for mom, for Mother's Day. That is going on now. So please make sure you nominate a deserving mom, because we want to make sure we celebrate that deserving mom for that time for Mother's Day, and bless her with a bouquet of flowers like we did last year. So if you know a deserving mom and you feel like that mom needs to be highlighted and shown and showcased for the things that she do 24/7, 365, look, nominate her, because there's a lot of things that we do, especially as moms. We wear a lot of hats, right? We mom, wife, sister, aunt, godmama, everything. And so we need to make sure that our service to what we do to our household, to our families, to our communities, to work, that it doesn't go unnoticed and it's not in vain. So if you know a deserving mother, hey sis, hey classmate, that's my girl. I have to call you back, Wendy. Thank you for checking up on me. Look, when I tell you, it's so good to be loved by people, because when they see you missing and not in action and not being where you're supposed to be or whatever, they're gonna check on you. And I love my village, I love my tribe, because they will check on me and find out like what's going on, where you at, sis, just checking on you or whatever. Hey Tarisha, I was so excited when I seen Junior do that catch on his football video. Tell him to keep up the good work. So excited for him. Oh, I do have a co-host for today's episode. So y'all already have, some of you have already known our co-host, because she's been on several times in my absence. But today we're going to tag team this episode today. And our message today, the wilderness that produced wisdom. When isolation is necessary for realignment. So I'm going to bring on my co-host Tequila, and we're going to tag team this episode today, you ladies, about some necessary stuff. Hey Tequila. You muted. Unmute.
Hey. Happy Sunday, everyone.
You look good. Got your green on. I like it.
No, I'm feeling that pink. That's your
I,
color, pink and
I,
red.
look. I wasn't a pink girl because that's all Jada do is pink. But for some reason, that's been my color this year, so I've been sticking to it.
Yeah, yeah,
So
you're
thank
wearing it,
you,
honey. You're wearing it.
thank you. So how you been? I know you just came off a vacation.
I did. It was much needed, and I can never get enough of vacation, so I'm just ready for the next one.
I know we always need a vacation from the vacation, don't we?
Yes, absolutely.
Telling you, I be thinking the same thing when I take time off of work. I be like, dang, I should have took a vacation from the vacation.
Yeah, we need it. We need it, girl. I was
Yeah,
there, and I was telling my mom, I was like, "Hey, like, what do you think about us extending? We got kids. We got to get back home." But I tried
right.
it.
Look, see, I don't have that problem because mine grown now, so I be
Right.
I can stay longer. Whether they be calling me, Mom, where you at? Why you not answering your phone? AJ, I'm gonna call you on video. I need to be able to see that you okay. He always think he's somebody's daddy.
Mm-hmm.
Yes, our lesson today, the wilderness that produced wisdom when isolation is necessary for realignment. So, gosh, yeah, I am so excited about this message because we coming off a great episode when we did lessons from losses. What can you gain? Out of a lot of people look at a loss as something they don't lost, but sometimes a loss is a
Mhm.
gain.
It's okay.
And
They just said.
yeah, and some of our lessons from those losses that we found out is sometimes you know um, it ain't a loss. It's something that God don't allow. Like I shared, God don't allow me to lose nothing that He ain't got nothing greater for me.
That's right.
So when I look at something, I'm like, oh, I ain't lose that.
Mhm.
That person lost. I ain't lose anything because when God don't allow me to lose nothing that He ain't got nothing greater. So,
That's
but
right.
yeah, so
Right.
I'm excited about today's message. Let's see what the good topic. I know I'm excited. I need y'all to chime in, Darisha, because
Mhm.
I know you probably got some stuff talking about the wilderness. When we talk about the wilderness, what do you guys think about when you talk about the wilderness? Because I know that we oftentimes we kind of find ourselves in isolation,
Mhm.
in places where we feel like we're surrounded by you know we feel unseen. We're surrounded by a spirit of loneliness and silence, and things like that. And those are the times where your wilderness experience is taking place. And a lot of times people think that's a bad thing. I don't think necessarily think it's a bad thing. Sometimes it's a bad thing when God directs you to the wilderness and you're not going there on your own. But sometimes that's not even a bad thing because sometimes we need that direction to kind of get us back to where we need to get to, or put us, you know, um, in a different perspective to get us going where we need to go. So,
Mhm.
what you think about that, Tequila, when we talk about, the realignment, how isolation sometimes is.
Yeah, I definitely agree with that. I think that there's a beauty in, finding strength in solitude. Um, in the wilderness, it's just you think about when you're in nature, you typically can be more in tune with your emotions. And so
Mm-hmm.
when I think about that isolation, that solitude, and just being in the wilderness, I'm just thinking about like really coming in tune with and in touch with those emotions. And so I feel like, there's definitely like a beauty in it for sure.
Yeah, because you look at it, there's no distractions. Like we get so caught up in the hustle and bustle of everyday life now, and it's so many distractions around us that we don't even. Sometimes we don't even take the time to breathe. Because we got, oh, I got to do this, got to do this, and then I got to get up and go do this, and then you leaving here to go do this. It's always just a constant, on the go kind of thing, and
Mhm.
nobody ever takes the time to sit and breathe and have a moment or whatever. And I have made sure, we had a conference last year at work, and they had a person that did a presentation, and they was talking about having periods of time throughout your work day where you have mental breaks. and you
Mm-hmm.
break away from the work experience and you kind of give yourself an opportunity. They call it something else. I can't think of it right now. But you take a break from work and you give yourself a mental break, and you kind of, if you can go for a walk or go do a little, do some stretching or yoga or exercise or whatever, mindfulness, that's what it is. Mindfulness. And it takes you away from the hustle and bustle of what's going on, and it kind of resets and regroups you, so that way you step away from everything and go back. And sometimes that's a great way to look at life, because sometimes we have to step away from things because we get so caught up in doing and going and so much, then we forget how to live, we forget how to enjoy certain things, we forget how to appreciate certain things, because it's just a constant hustle and bustle
That's
of the
right.
day.
That's right. That's right. I think that it also allows us to just embrace like impermanence. I think that we sometimes lose sight of the fact that most things in life are so temporary. Even life itself, if we're being honest, it's so temporary. And, in those moments in the wilderness, like we are allowed to just
Mhm.
really focus on and appreciate the moments. And so I think that's important.
Yeah. And that's what I said in my notes. It says sometimes the wilderness is instructed, sometimes it's directed, and sometimes it's demanded.
That's right.
So sometimes we're instructed, meaning sometimes people will tell us like, maybe you need to take a break,
Mhm.
maybe, take a break, take your vacation or whatever, because sometimes we don't see it because we're so caught up or
Mhm.
whatever that we don't see ourselves, missing things, and all that, and then and not breathing and taking a moment, and
Mhm.
other people around us can see it and like, you off your little mojo,
Mhm.
you're not yourself, maybe you need to take a break, go on a vacation, take a couple of days off or something.
Right.
Sometimes it's instructed, and then other times it's directed. Sometimes we don't have no control of it. We're directed in the wilderness, and before we know it we realize we there.
You're
And
there.
it's like I'm here by myself, ain't nobody around me where everybody went, ain't nobody calling
Mhm.
me, ain't nobody checking on me, like you find yourself in the wilderness then, and then you like, okay, God, what's going on?
What's
Like,
going on?
why am I here? Ain't nobody, what's going on? Is
Yeah.
people acting funny? How people are like
Right.
funny and
Right.
all that kind of stuff. No, people ain't acting funny. You've been directed there because
Mhm.
there's some things that you probably need to be pruned. There's some things that God is trying to get out of you, or you need to
Mhm.
get out of that desolate moment
Mhm.
of you being by yourself, away from people, away from things, so that way you can hear clearly, you can see clearly, you can think clearly, or whatever. Because I'm a person that likes to, I'm very, I like organization. I thrive in organization. If something is disorganized, I can't thrive in that.
Mhm.
So anytime that I get involved in something and something is not organized, you're gonna probably see me get busy in there trying to organize it, because
Mhm.
I can't thrive in this environment if not. And
Yes.
so people will be like, okay, well, let her do her thing. If this her thing, let her do her thing. Because
Mhm.
look, I can't function, in stuff that gives me dysfunction.
Mhm.
It bothers me. And so so oftentimes I am oftentimes directed in that, because everybody can't deal with that.
That's
Some
right.
people are like, she doing too much. Like, I can't deal with her. I can't work with her. She want everything perfect. She want, I've heard it from my kids. Mom, we ain't gonna be able to do it like you want it done. Ever. No, that's not the case. It's just the fact that I see certain ways. Hey, I got a spirit of excellence about certain things, and so if I don't think you can do it, then I'll just do it myself.
Mhm.
So, but a lot of people can't deal with that. So that's why I say sometimes we're directed into the wilderness, because, sometimes we're pulled away from the people around us. So that way we know I got to do this on my own.
Mhm.
I can't depend on the people on the left and right of me. This is a place where I got to figure it out. I got to
Mhm.
discover who I am. I got to know what I need to get out of this or whatever. Have you found yourself in a place like that before, or been directed, instructed, or demanded?
Most definitely. I think that it's probably just a part of life. And I think that when we're in those moments, though, what's most important, though, is for us to transform those moments into something positive. We have to just remember that, like, there is, again, like some type of beauty in decay and loss and separation and isolation. There's a beauty in it. And it's really what you make of it. So transforming that loss into something meaningful is very helpful when I'm going through, moments like that. Because oftentimes we really do find our purpose when we're in those moments of isolation, and it takes getting there sometimes in order for us to find that purpose. So most definitely, girl, I think it's just like a way of life, and I think for a lot of us, it's what we do with it when we're in those moments that really shape our future.
Yeah, I have heard people a lot kind of explain when they have their aha moments, and people like, I had my aha moment.
Yeah,
And
yeah.
sometimes they've had and most of the time when you have your aha moment, it's during those times when you're isolated,
Mhm.
when you're alone, when you're going through that wilderness period or whatever, because that's the time when God can pour in you. That's the time when you can hear stuff. That's the time when you can dissect and feel what you need to feel, deal what you need to deal with, kind of thing. Because when we're distracted with everything around us, we don't get that opportunity.
Yeah, yeah,
You
we
know,
can't even hone in on them because of the different distractions that are coming our way. So we can't even like see the purpose and the possibilities for our future that are meant to develop us because the distractions are just weighing us down and keeping us burdened down. So like we definitely gotta keep in mind that those are moments where you can use it to serve you. Um, rather than allow it to, detour you.
yeah, yeah. I definitely think it's more of a help than a hindrance, for sure.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I want to read some of the comments. Jay said, "I agree," and also when you're in your wilderness break or whatever, it sets you up to be isolated. I just came back from a staycation. You went on a staycation. You had friends with you. From a staycation, and plans were messed up, so I used it to spend time with myself. Oh, okay,
So you
okay.
didn't know about that.
I didn't know about it either, girl. She
Oh.
look, she told me the night before she was leaving. That's how my kids be doing, honey. Like I tell them way in advance my plans so they'll know or whatever. These kids don't be telling you nothing. I said, "Where you going?" She got off of work early the day before, and I was like, "Why are you off of work early?" She's like, "Cause on my trip tomorrow." What trip? Girl, I be like, these grown kids, I can't deal. Like, I can't deal. I was like, they'll tell you nothing. But but you're right, Jada. So sometimes when your plans do get like that messed up, why mess up an opportunity? You already on the trip or
Right.
whatever. Enjoy your time. I know a lot of people have a problem with eating alone, like going out to dinner, and y'all know how many times I have said table for one and have enjoyed myself and sat there, ordered me an appetizer, a few drinks. I mean, I ate everything, but a meal, and sat there, enjoyed myself, been on my phone, enjoyed my time. I wasn't trying to have no conversation back and forth with nobody. Enjoyed my meal how I wanted to enjoy it. Didn't have to share my meal with somebody. It was just, even when I take myself to lunch like that or
Mhm.
brunch and I'm by myself and I enjoy that time, and it took me a while to get there because I've always been so used to being, around my sisters or being with my kids to do stuff like
Mhm.
that. But now, honey, table for one.
I know, I know, I know. I definitely agree with you though. Like I was waiting to hear like if you were gonna say you've always been this way or if there was a workup to get to that point. And I heard you say that, it took you a while to get there. And I think that that's probably like for most of us, like it takes you a minute to get to that point. But like you said, once you get there, it's a beautiful space to be in. It can
Yeah,
be a beautiful
like
place to live.
yeah, like now I go on vacations
Yeah.
and trips by
Hello.
myself. And look, y'all, I would have never done that before.
Right.
But I'm telling you, I have people be, and I get in trouble. You know, I have my guard mom and different people like, I don't know about you going on this trip by yourself. Like, ain't nobody gonna be with you, and all this kind. I'd be like, I'm gonna be fine. You know, like this kind of stuff. But, and I have enjoyed it, especially like after my last breakup. Because we was always on trips. I kept going on trips. I was like, I'm not gonna let that stop me,
That's
you know,
right.
because we're not together. I'm still gonna enjoy the trips or
Mhm.
whatever. And so, honey, I kept going on trips and been on trips by myself
Mhm.
and have enjoyed those trips by myself. Went
Mhm.
on a look. I went all the way to St. Martin's.
Mhm.
So, you know, so it's like, look, everybody ain't able and everybody can't do it. I get it, but baby, if you can
Do it.
do it,
Just do it. Just like
do
Nike.
it.
Just
But
do it. Yeah.
you meet people. I'm a people's person. So you meet people, and I met people um, when I was on those trips, solo trips by myself, and it was almost like I wasn't alone on those trips
Mhm.
because I meet people, and it's like, hey, we're gonna go down to the pool, or we're gonna do this at such time. You want to join us? So a whole solo trip. It's almost like I'm not even solo anymore because
Mhm.
I meet people, and they were like, you know, you want to do this, and I was telling my kids one time, I was like, oh, this Canadian guy is paying for my cab to the hotel. And AJ was like, is he following you to the hotel? Like,
Right.
on your phone with us so I can make sure you got there. You know, so, you know, I'm just like this boy. But I was like, I thought that was nice because he was like, you know, I'm not gonna we was gonna try to split it at first. And then he was like, no, just go ahead. I'll pay for yours. And you know, since we've already done told the cab driver and I'll just my friend is gonna pick me up from here. And so he just paid for my cab or whatever. And you know, I told my kids, but I thought that was all cool. And my kids like, we need to know that you okay, you know. So
But you know, I think that takes personality though, Shadonna. Like you have that personality to pull people in that way and they gravitate towards you. And so you definitely have to be open to, you know, connecting with others when even in your moments of isolation. And I think that you possess that. I think that's a special trait. I don't have it. But you got it, girl. And so I think that that's important to recognize that, you know, you definitely have to be open to, you know, people, allowing people to, you know, gravitate towards you in those moments when you're in isolation.
yeah, and you know, I used to laugh every time one of my old pastors from Alabama. He's always called me evangelist. He said, evangelist, you know, Shadonna, and I'd be like, you know, he's like, I used to be like, Apostle, quit calling me evangelist. He's like, he said, you got to walk in that calling. He said, because you're a people's person, people draw. And he
Yes.
said, you have to use that as your ministry because people gravitate to you and you have a heart for people. They
Mhm.
gravitate you for a good reason. They're not gravitating you because you're a bad person and you leading them wrong. He said, but you lead them right straight to Christ. You bring them to church, you know, you bring them here, you introduce them, you know, you giving them an opportunity
Yeah.
to have that ministry, that walk in invite to ministry. So he was like, so that's why I say evangelist. I'll be like, oh, okay. So I used to always be like,
And
but
then, but what I really like about it though, with your personality, is because you meet people who have that aura as well. But with yours, it is a bit different because it's authentic. It's authentic. Like it's not a fake, it's not a fraud, it's not like you're doing it for a brief moment. It's you every time you're around you. It's you, you know, no matter who's around you and no matter, you know, status, no matter age, it's that's just your personality. That's just you. I love that about you.
oh, well, thank you, thank
Yeah.
you. So, you know, what are some other ways you guys feel like isolation kind of, you know, kind of reforms us in that realignment? I know a lot of people gonna say relationships because that's one of the main things. You know, everybody always got to, you know, take a break after a breakup, or you know, and some people don't. Look, some people jump from pillow to post and ain't skipped a beat. You know, from one relationship to the next. But some people use that wilderness time in between relationships to kind of feed off what I got from this, relationship, what I learned, what I need to break off of me before I take on to the next relationship or whatever. And so we use that isolation time, and that wilderness time to kind of like feed ourselves spiritually, physically, mentally, to because sometimes we really have to starve ourselves from people and things, and especially when it comes to relationships or marriages, when we um had so much, we dealt with so much within that scope of that um relationship or marriage. So isolation probably is necessary for some people after after a breakup or something. So what you guys think about that? Jada said yes, and it brings so much clarity because it forces you to face your thoughts. I like that, Jada. It's like your own personal therapy.
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah.
I'm definitely in the wilderness. That's my BFF. You in the wilderness, BFF? You in the wilderness because you put yourself there, because she buried herself in work. That's why she in the wilderness. I'm gonna have to send men to her work to find her. But I love my girl. I'll see her in a couple of weeks. I'm gonna get her out the house when I get there. What else? Well, I'm trying to read some of the comments, Tequila, so we can see what some of the people are saying. Look at Jada. Jada all into this list.
Yeah, Jada's loving this episode, honey.
Jada talking flirt in peace. What is she talking about, flirt in peace? She's talking about when you got to eat by yourself, you need to flirt in peace. That's my child.
I think that in relationships, as we're isolating after, even sometimes during our relationships, we have to isolate in the relationship. I think that it kind of teaches us to prioritize meaningful connections, because how sometimes they say the grass is not always greener on the other side. So sometimes you find yourself trying to move to the other side where you think the grass is greener. But then, like, on the journey there sometimes, and even once you get there, if you make it there, like, you realize how meaningful your relationship where you started at was. I think that it teaches you sometimes to prioritize the meaningful moments in relationships. I think so. Just focus on quality of the relationships, of the real relationships.
That's a great point, because we hear that all the time. People chasing the grass or whatever. And my whole thought: water your grass where you at. If you water your grass gonna be just as green as the other people's grass. And that's what we got to understand. If I nurture what I have, and if I give work to where I am, if I'm toiling the fields and working the fields where I am and where I have planted, then I'm gonna bloom where I'm planted. There's no need for me to uproot myself and go over here, because I see sunflowers over here, but I don't know what it took for the sunflowers to grow over here, and I don't know what the sunflowers doing over there.
That's right.
Sunflowers be doing some shady stuff, and I am trying to move over here to sunflower. Okay, got the big old flower hiding all the other shady stuff that they doing, and then I get over there, and then I realize now I can't go back, because I'm seeing all this extra stuff, that I don't miss, because I didn't water my own grass, or I didn't stay where I was supposed to be to navigate through my planting season, my nurturing season, or whatever the case may be.
That's right.
They say it now. I know, right?
Wendy, know.
We hear that all the time, how people are always trying to navigate through life, and they're jumping from here to there or whatever, and trying to figure things out. Like, we make things so hard because of our decisions and our indecisions on things. When it's black and white.
Mm-hmm.
And so when you look at, and then we go through unnecessary drama, we go through
Mm-hmm.
unnecessary hurt, we go through unnecessary, toxicity, because we put ourselves in that situation trying to chase or look for other things greater and better. But
Mm-hmm.
I've never been in a wilderness situation that God has placed me in, or I have been instructed in, due to like a spiritual or physical or mental guidance, that I have never gotten a blessing or a lesson out of from God.
Yeah.
So if I know if God is in it or
Yeah.
whatever, there's no reason for me to go jump
Mm-hmm.
over here to this field or whatever. If I know that God has planted certain people or certain things in my life and I'm seeing it, I'm seeing the fruits, because I'm a fruit inspector. If I see the fruit, I'm judging the fruit or whatever by its tree, and I see the fruit, there's no reason for me to go over there
That's
checking
right.
out them apples over there when I see this whole fruit tree that I got right
Mm-hmm.
here. So we have to be mindful of those, because we're going to cause unnecessary drama problems for us, and then find ourselves, we're going to be like the children of the Israelites wandering in the wilderness for 40 years. We're going to be on like that hamster wheel, repeating the same cycles over and over again, because we're doing the dumb mistakes. We're not thinking, and we're like on a hamster wheel. And that's just how the children of Israel in 40 years they was in the wilderness. They could have gotten the wilderness in a year. They could have gotten the wilderness in 5-6 months had they been instructed and listening to the guidance of the Lord. But they wanted to do things their way. They was getting aggravated. They were, all this kind of stuff. And that's how we get sometimes.
Mm-hmm.
Ain't, so and so ain't doing me right. I ain't getting enough from this. And then you get enticed by Sally Sue and Jezebel over here, and then you come and find out that they can't do much of nothing either when you get over there. And then now you can't cross the sea and come back.
Mm-hmm.
So we have to be careful about that.
Mm-hmm.
Leave it to my, she love it here. Wendy said, I have done that. It is so peaceful and gives you some time to think. Absolutely, Wendy.
Let's see what Rita said again, Jada.
Oh yeah, highlight Rita. Hey, Miss Rita. Hey,
So
Serena.
Miss
I like being
Miss
alone when I pray. Other than that, I don't prefer being in the wilderness. Kind of messy and afraid I'm going to miss out on something.
But you know what though? And Jada said had a message and same as Rita. But let me just tell you, Jada, about that. So you know how, because Miss Rita has been with me in some places, when I was in the wilderness. And so you are isolated in the wilderness. You
Right.
need some messy friends,
Oh
when
yeah.
you're in your mess. You need somebody to be messy with you. And
Right.
not messy in a bad way, you know what I mean?
Right.
But just messy in a comforting way where you know that you're not alone in your mess and you're not going through it by yourself. And so um I love that. I love that. Miss Rita has taught me how to be, that friend and that family member for others. And so rest assured that even when I'm in the wilderness, when my friends and my loved ones are in the wilderness, whether it's good, bad, ugly, sad, they really don't ever have to be alone, because whatever they're on, I'm on it too. Seriously.
Miss Rita, I have to agree with you too, but I don't like the wilderness either. It ain't like I'm a volunteer to go. But I know every time I've been there,
Yeah.
what I've got down there, and I know that I'm I became a better person coming out of it. I gained something coming out of it. I dropped some things, lost some things, and gained some things coming out of it. So yeah, I'm not a volunteer to go in there
Right. Right.
because it ain't pleasant sometimes. But you know, I definitely can say every time I've had that experience, I've either gained something and lost some things, necessary things that I needed to lose, and gained some things I needed to gain as well. And
Yeah.
Miss Bree, we got to have you back on soon too, so you can
Yeah.
drop some of them old wisdom nuggets.
Shan, you just mentioned that personal growth and development that happens when you're in the wilderness. that
Mhm.
that growth that leads you to a new understanding of and appreciation of the
Right.
roles that different people play in your life.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And that's important to having the right people in your circle,
Yeah.
in your life. Accountability. Accountability is super important. So if you don't have people in your life that's I'm trying to get my light right, y'all. People in your life that Jada can't do it for me. Yeah, because it's gonna distract me. People in your life that's gonna hold you accountable for certain things. Then you're not gonna know. You're not gonna know when you failing, or when you um, kind of not doing up to par, not doing what you're supposed to do. I was trying to explain it to somebody. It's like a newborn trying to take care of itself. You can't help because sometimes you are the problem.
Mm-hmm.
And so, a lot of people be like, well, I'm working on me. How you working on you? And I'm just having some time to myself. I'm working on me. But how are you working on you when you the problem? So you can't fix you when you ain't got nobody. You ain't got no accountability partner. You're not going to no therapy. You're not doing this. And then if you got the wrong people in your ear giving you the wrong kind of advice because they got a dislike or disdain for this person or that person or whatever the case may be, and there's no valid reasons that they're giving you, advice or guidance in a certain kind of way, you can't receive stuff like that from everybody. And I don't
Mm-hmm.
care if it's family, friend, or foe. We have to be careful who we allow in our ear gates to kind of give us, guidance, or give us like what they think we should do when it comes to our lives, especially when it comes to relationships or whatever. Um, I'm a firm believer. Keep folks out your business. Hey, April. She said, being in the wilderness can also be scary. Most times, this is where you make truth with. Oh my God, won't it
Yeah,
teach you about you?
that's right.
I'm telling you, that wilderness will teach you about you. And um, sometimes we need to see us. We need to see ourselves.
We do.
We
We do.
want to appreciate. We want to appreciate the things we learn about ourselves until we see ourselves. Like, look, I didn't really understand about seeing myself till I had a daughter.
Mm.
She was just like her mama. And then I was just like, oh my God, I done created a me for real. And then you be trying to break the kids of the habit that they got from you.
Right.
So you like, oh, good, she get on my nerve. And I used to say that all the time to my sisters, like, oh my God, she's so dramatified. Like she just get on my nerve. She does it. And they'd be like, she acts just like you. My sister would be like, she acts just like you. And I used to be like, what? And they'd be like, yeah. Mm-hmm. And I used to be like, oh my gosh. So, and then her dad used to tell her that all the time. Jada, you acting just like your mama. Be like, what? What that's supposed to be? And so, then I start seeing it, and then I was like, oh gosh, yeah. So now, as I've grown and matured, now when I catch her, with some of my old habits, I have to check her on it. I'd be like, Jada, even when it comes to relationships, I'd be like, Jada, you can't do that. I was like, don't be like your mama and make mistakes in those areas. You're like, you can't do that. And she'd be looking at me like, you know, look, I'm just trying to tell you, been there, done that, got the t-shirt. So, so those are that's the wisdom we grab from those wilderness moments because, we've been there, done that,
Done
got
it.
the
That's right.
t-shirt. I ain't trying to go back, but, sometimes we'll find ourselves going back. If we're on
We
that hamster
will.
wheel, trying to help ourselves, I'm working on me, and you ain't seeking no help or no accountability from somebody else or nothing like that. And you by yourself trying to fix you.
Yeah, because like you were saying earlier, when you're being careful and selective about, who you allow to, just be your sphere of influence, I think that the goal that we should keep in mind is that you don't want people around you that are going to lead you to the wilderness, You just want to have people surrounded by you when you're in the wilderness, those people who can help you get out of the wilderness, especially in times of, loss and, times when you're going through suffering and things in life. But you definitely don't want people around you that gonna lead you to the wilderness. You gotta have people around you that are gonna, be there for you when you're in the wilderness that can help pull you out.
Right. You said something. I remember I took some notes last week, and and I was like, I need to say this for the next episode. Um, it says the peace isn't in. Sometimes we since we talk about relationships too, um, sometimes we're looking for certain things out of relationships, and we feel like if I just get that, you know, if I just get that, after a breakup or whatever, then I'm good. And sometimes it never happened. And then we're waiting. We have this waiting period because we're waiting on certain things. We're waiting on that apology, or we're waiting on an explanation, or whatever the case may be. And then we get it, and it still don't fix anything. And so the peace isn't. And I wrote this down. The peace isn't in the apology; it's in the release.
Mm.
So
Letting go.
yeah. So
Learning
when
to let go.
we're expecting an apology and the explanation, and well, why you did that, why you had to go, we want all this explanation, then we want the apology for it or whatever, and then we get it, and it don't fix nothing, because the hurt is still there, the damage is still there, and all that kind of stuff. And so you find yourself like, I'm still in this wilderness dealing with stuff. And I felt like the apologies was gonna, bring peace. I felt like an explanation was, and it didn't. So, so I said that to say the peace is not in your apology. It ain't gonna be in your explanation either. It's gonna be in your release. The moment you decide, I am the prize, I don't chase, I attract. The moment you say who you are, who you belong to, like I know who I am. I know who I'm a child of God. I'm not gonna sit here and act like I'm not the blessing, I'm not the gift, or whatever the case may be.
Yes.
And when you start walking in that, doing affirmations, manifestations, and walking in that stuff, look, you don't care if an apology come, an explanation come, and when they do bring it, you be looking at it sideways like,
Don't remind me. Like, don't remind me.
right? You gonna have to come better than that. That's all you got. Like that's how you explaining it. So it ain't gonna solve anything. So it's gonna come when you release. And so the moment you release, baby, you walking, you glowing, skin. Look, you ain't even got one no makeup. You walking, you glowing, you doing your thing, and you ain't skipping a beat.
Right.
And that person ain't have nothing to do with it. They ain't stop nothing. Like, you hear that term, don't know one monkey stop a show.
That's right.
They stop nothing. So, we have to be mindful that, sometimes that ain't gonna happen. And we don't want to keep ourselves stuck in the wilderness because we waiting on that apology, or we waiting on that, we waiting on that explanation or whatever. No, you're not gonna explain something to me to make me feel like I was less than, or I wasn't good enough. No, you did that because you were selfish and you wanted your cake and eat it too, baby. Because I'm all of that. I'm more than enough. And so, and we got to walk in. We got to think like that and walk in it.
Yeah. So letting go, just let go. If it don't serve you, because think about, even in nature, trees shed leaves in autumn, and that's the part of their life cycle. So let it go.
Right. You got to release.
Release. Let it go.
Everything goes to a cycle. And I'm a firm believer, what's for you is for you. If it's for me or whatever, ain't nothing, ain't no devil, witch, warlock, anything gonna keep whatever God has ordained for me to be for me. Period, point blank. So I don't I'm not finna sit here and waste no energy, argue about it. If it's for me, God gonna make sure it's for me. So, all I gotta do is sit back and let God do what he need to do.
That's right.
So, and that's how we got walking. She said, let's go and let go and let God. That's it.
Yeah.
I'm telling you, look, when I tell you, I have to remind myself, let God fight these battles.
That's right.
Let God fight these battles, because we want to get our hands in it. We our flesh get jumpy, get froggy. I always say get froggy. I ain't been saved my whole life. So, I'm a country girl, so we grew up fighting. So
That's right.
I ain't been saying my whole life. I fought boys, everything. I was a tomboy. I fought boys and everything. So don't let the lipstick and the eyelashes fool y'all. Look, I have, I be trying to keep it holy and keep it classy. But yeah, we got to make sure we don't hold ourselves hostage in the wilderness because we waiting on an apology or something. And then because May is Mental Health Month, I do want to make sure that people who are suffering in silence or whatever, did they know that, there is things that there are positive things you can get in your wilderness moment, but also you need to make sure that you're doing it, in a positive way. Like you're seeking the right help, like going to get therapy, going to get counseling. And like Tequila said earlier, making sure you got the right people around you. So when you're coming out that wilderness, you got that support system. You got that accountability, people who going to be there to say, hey, we got you. We're here to support you. And make sure those people are your true people, like your people, because you want shady people. I mean, and I hate to say that, but sometimes we do have shady people. I mean, they be sometimes family as well, and it's not always friends. Sometimes our families are like that. And we have to discern when their advice or when their counsel is for us and not for us. And when it's not for us, respectfully decline what they're telling you. It don't serve my purpose. It don't serve me right now. It don't serve me to receive that from you because I know this and that for this, for me to go this and that, have this guidance on that. So, and you can respect, and they can't receive that, then they ain't your people. Plain and simple, because they got to be able to receive that in love. If they trying to give you stuff in love and you respectfully decline what they give you and they have a problem with that, then they ain't your people. Because people who are your people will respect that.
They will.
And then they will respect their space and their boundary and stay in their place. So, but yeah, because Mental Health Month is May, I want to make sure people know that they can, Jada, can you pull it up, mental health hotline number? Like, so if people need to call it. But I do want to make sure that people have a outlet if they find themselves in a place like we do have in the Chic Chat Pod group. We do have some life coaches in our group. So I mentioned that I think a month ago. So if you are in need of like a counsel and you want it to be private or whatever and don't want to, go to somebody outside or somebody that or whatever, hit me up. I can pass some information on to some of our life coaches who we have in the group, and they can contact you, and y'all can talk and set up whatever you need to set up. But I just want to make sure people have resources so they're not out here suffering alone and in silence, and trying to be that infant or newborn baby trying to take care of themselves, and they ain't helping nothing. So we want to make sure everybody can grow and benefit, when they're in a wilderness time and when they're experiencing that, so they can get the positive attributes out of that, like peace and joy and the blessings out of that moment. So we don't want people to continue to be suffering. Suffering is not that's not what God wants us to do anyway. Life be lifing already. We want to make sure whatever time we have left on this life, we live in our best life. We ain't trying to be in nothing toxic. We ain't trying to be in nothing, that's going to keep us from having that peace or whatever. Every day we want wake up, we want to make sure we're enjoying and taking advantage of that day that we have.
Mm-hmm.
That's
Mm-hmm.
you and you need information, please let us know. We'll provide that information for our life coaches to contact you. That way you can make sure that you have some kind of support or help. And we're always available, to chat. This is what this platform is for. A safe environment for us to be able to support one another, motivate each other, encourage each other, or whatever. Because we the everyday woman.
Oh, yeah.
The everyday woman is someone who is a mother, a wife. Wear many hats, and sometimes
Mhm.
that causes us to find ourselves in these desolate places and desolate moments
Yeah.
where we feel like we're isolated. The silence is so loud that we feel like there's nobody there or nobody understand what we're going through. So reach out so that way we know that you're not alone, and we're able to provide some support or help. And if anything, we can at least pray. Um, you know, because I'm a firm believer in prayer. So
Mm.
prayer changes a whole lot. You know, and where two or three are gathered, honey,
God too is in the midst.
whew, we can send up some stuff. So, but
Mhm.
I'm open for that. So if you guys are going through some things, let us know. Tequila, I will pass it on to you if you got some last minute thoughts on the lesson as we wrap it up.
Um, just everyone, no matter what you're going through out there, even in times of wilderness, isolation, solitude, desolation, like you're important. You're important to someone, and so try to find your purpose in those moments, and definitely, once you find your purpose, you definitely will prevail. Focus on your purpose, and you will prevail.
Right. I'm reminded of the scripture that says, "Who the Son sets free is free indeed." So when we free ourselves from all the things that weigh us down so heavily every day, that we carry on, whether it's day to day activities, the things we carry on in life, whether stuff we don't brought in from our childhood traumas, from past relationships, whatever the case may be, it's never too late to release that stuff. We got to release it, because you holding on to it and you creating more of a hindrance than a help for your life, um, keeps you just like the children of Israel, spending 40 years in the wilderness, and you don't have to be. Like, we got to be mindful of our mental health, for one, our spiritual health, our physical health, all of that. But we got to make sure that we're thinking, about how we want to live our life going forward. Mama and them don't did their thing.
That's right.
It ain't about how mama want me to live my life. It's not how my sister or my brother want me to live my life. It's about how I need to live my life, and how God has instructed and purpose for me to live my life.
Mm-hmm.
Jeremiah 29:11 says, "I know the plans I have for your life." So if you're not sure about what your plans or your purpose for your life, seek God about that. That's what the wilderness moment is. Okay, God, have a conversation with him. God, what is it that you want me to get out of this moment, get out of this situation? What I need to do, because I'm hearing from all these different people and everybody's telling me something different, but it's conflicting with what I want to do. It's conflicting with who I want to be with. It's conflicting with where I want to go. So when that's conflicting, because God is not an author of confusion. He
That's
is not
right.
about chaos or none of that. So when God instructs and he gives direction, you can count it as so.
That's
He
right.
ain't finna change his mind, none of that. So if he's already said it and spoke it, then you got to stand on it. I don't care how long it takes. but you got to stand on it. You got to say, okay, God, I trust you because I know that's what you said.
Mm-hmm.
And I'm believing because you said it, that it's going to happen. So, you know, a lot of times out of disobedience, we delay things because we're trying to help God and he don't need our help.
Mm-hmm.
You know, because things ain't going fast enough, or things ain't going how we want it to go, or things don't look right on the outside to other people. So we want to make sure that they think we're where we need to be, or whatever the case may be.
Yeah.
No.
Yeah.
Get with God. God, where is it? Where is it that you want me to be? Where you want me to be? Where I need to go? What's my purpose? Or whatever. Show me how to be the right woman. Show me how to be the right man. Show me how to be the right mother. Show me how to be the right, you know, wife. Show me how to be right father, husband, whatever the case may be for you. You know, seek God for that. You know, stop getting counsel from everywhere, and especially if it's not godly counsel, and you're finding yourselves on this hamster wheel, repeating cycles after cycles, and then you're finding yourself in a place I'm working on me, you know, 10, 15 years later, and you got nowhere, because the wilderness ship, like Tequila said earlier, is supposed to be a development moment.
Yeah.
You should see some spiritual growth, some mental growth. You know, you should see a difference.
Yeah, it should serve you for sure.
Yeah,
it should be serving you. Like, those are the moments where, you know, you're supposed to be in deep contemplation, you know, on your purpose and your values. It's for you. It's for the individual that's isolated and going through those moments. And it should definitely serve you in that still moment. It's supposed to lead you to realizations about yourself, about your life, and what truly matters to you.
Absolutely. Because at the end of the day, y'all, when it's all said and done, and it's our time, God gonna ask us about the accountability of our life. He ain't gonna have my mama or my daddy or my brother or my children standing next to me asking them, can y'all account for why Shadonna did this, this, and this, or why she didn't do this, this, and this when I instructed her, when I gave her this, this, and this, and this? No, they're not going to be there to account for that. I'm the only person that's going to be there to account for that. So everything that I do, everything I don't do, everything I say, whatever the case may be, I'm held accountable for that. So, and at the end, and I'm trying to make it plain for people, at the end, that's how God gonna see it. He ain't gonna care that you listen to mama, dad, or whoever, and they gave you the wrong instruction. He ain't gonna care about that, because you have the free will to know I can either listen or not listen. But if I listen to the will of God, I know that's the best, you know, that's the best for my life, you know, outside of everybody else. So, you know, that's our little nugget for this week's lesson. I hope you guys enjoyed it. I want to kind of capture some of the comments, because we had some really good comments. Literally want to get out our hands in it. What was that about, Jada?
When you know, sometimes when you're going through things, she was referencing, you know, wanting to, you know, sometimes take over the fight, like take over the battle, when the battle is the Lord's, not yours, for you to deal with it with your own hands, literally.
Yeah. When it said, don't let the devil ride, what she said, don't let the devil ride. If you let him ride, he would look, he would take over.
Take over the seat.
You can't let him. The Bible says resist the devil and he will flee. Yeah. So sometimes you got to rebuke that thing too.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
What else? Miss say praying. Yes, absolutely. When prayers go up, that's it. When them prayers go up, that's when them blessings come down, and we got to start receiving what's for us. You know, a lot of time we hold up our own blessings because we fail to do some of the important things. And one of the most important things when you find yourself in the wilderness is prayer. I won't ever, you know, like negate that responsibility of prayer. Like if I'm in a wilderness moment, that's all I'm probably gonna be doing, praying and fasting for me. So, you know, like, look, God, I don't want no distractions. I need to hear from you clearly, you know. And so, you know, and those are the times I've heard from God. Every time I feel like I need to hear from God, I always go on a fast. And it's like, I mean, it's just like clear. he gives you the answer. He gives you what you need, whether it's about a job or relationship or whatever the case may be, so if that's you and you have a struggle with that, and if you never fasted or whatever, try fasting and prayer works wonders. So, but everybody's not there at that mature level, but if that's not you, then you have a support system around you that will offer prayers and support to you. And then there's also, available resources like counseling and therapy as well. So we want to make sure you have that. Jada, can you pull up the mom's flyer? I want to make sure we highlight this because I want to make sure we are doing the Mother's Day bouquet again this year. So I want you guys to nominate a deserving mom who you guys feel like is a deserving mom for the mom's bouquet. So we did that last year, and so we're doing it again this year. And Jada posted a flyer in groups. I want to make sure she posts it while we're live. So if there's anybody watching us live in our group, they can get the information down as well. But I'll give her a little bit while she's pulling it up. But I thank you guys for checking in with us today, and it's so good to be back too. It's so good to have. Normally Tequila is hosting with Jada, so I'm glad to have her back hosting with me.
Yes, it's been a minute.
I know it has been a minute. Our schedules have been off. I've been away, then you go away, so we haven't been back together. So I'm glad we're back. So this is the flyer for the Mother's Day. Nominate a mother to celebrate a mothers for Mother's Day, and the mother that wins the nomination vote will get a bouquet of flowers from Chic Chat Podcast. We did that last year, and we will definitely be doing that again this year. What is the deadline, Jada? May 9th is the deadline. So look at the flyer for all the details or whatever, and we will make sure that we will post the details of it, and then you guys can vote on the deserving mom from the nominations, and then the deserving mom with the most votes. That's who we get our bouquet, and we'll contact her and get her address and provide the flower delivery to her in her area. So I think last year the lady was from Niagara Falls, Niagara Falls, New York. So they got the flowers last year. So, and she, she was so excited or whatever. Her friend nominated her. So you never know. Somebody might be nominating y'all. So, and then, pop up with this big old beautiful bouquet at your house or whatever. I think flowers, I buy flowers when I go grocery shopping. So, I know that's a bougie thing, but I buy flowers when I go grocery shopping. And I love to see flowers on my bar, fresh flowers on my bar. And now my son is like that. So when he go grocery shopping, he does the same thing. So, but yeah, I like to see fresh flowers on the bar. So yeah, y'all look, nominate these moms so they can get these flowers, because I love for a mom to receive something like that. So especially these moms who work so hard and do so many things, day in and day out. So, but thank you guys. Anything else, Tequila, before we go?
No, everyone have an amazing week, and yeah, just remember your purpose, is to prevail, even in the wilderness.
Yes. Isolation is necessary sometimes for realignment. So, sometimes we have to reset, ourselves to get back to where we need to be, or to get in alignment to where we should be or where God wants us to be. So allow that realignment to happen. That's where your wisdom gonna come from when you're in the wilderness. And block the distractions and receive what you need to receive, because the blessing is in the lessons. And like our previous episode, and it says the lessons from the lessons from losses episode, so it kind of all ties in. So there's always a lesson out of something that you're going through. So it's not just you going through it just to be going through it. So but anyways, we appreciate you guys. We will see you guys next. It's next Sunday, Mother's Day.
Mother's Day. Yeah, it is. It is. It's Mother's Day, so it'll be the following Sunday.
It is. I think I'm gonna probably do a pre-recorded show next week. So y'all will probably see it because it's Mother's Day. I don't want to disturb y'all Mother's Day because y'all are too special. So we'll probably do a pre-recorded episode. I don't know how I'm gonna do it because they don't change our hours. We like banker hours now at work 9 to 5. Who goes to work at 9 to 5? Like I'm an early riser, so I like going to work early so I can get off. Now I'm gonna be stuck in DC traffic, in the evening times and not get home till 7 or 8 o'clock. I don't like that. So, yeah, I'm feeling some type of way about that. But so my plan is to pre-record because I'm working 9 to 5. But we'll see. I'll probably try to do it Friday or Saturday, but just so we can have the opportunity to vote for the moms, and then also have a good little message for mothers as well. I will have a surprise message for that one. But yeah, so to our special moms or whatever, and you never know. Check out that episode. It might be something other than the flowers. It might be something a mom might get gifted with on it.
That's amazing.
You never know. We always doing some kind of little surprises. So it might be an episode you might want to check out. But definitely appreciate you for supporting the podcast. And we will see you guys next week. Thank you, Tequila.
Yeah, of course. Have a good week.
Have a good week, everybody.
All right.